Universal Studios Japan, 2001, 11 million visitors in its first year, the fastest park in history to reach 10 million guests. By any measure, an unqualified triumph. Within 3 years it was losing money and required a rescue. The park that broke every attendance record at opening was functionally on the verge of collapse before the decade was out. This is what Universal's international expansion actually looks like when you read past the opening weekend headlines. Construction of Universal Studios Japan began in 1998, the result of a joint venture between NBC Universal, Osaka's city government, and a consortium of Japanese banks. The ambition was clear: bring Hollywood spectacle to the heart of Kansai on a 64-hectare site carved out of Osaka Bay. The project cost $1.7 billion, a sum that drew headlines even before the gates opened. The park created nearly 29,000 jobs during its 3-year build, promising a new era of leisure and tourism for the region. When the park opened on March 31st, 2001, it was an instant phenomenon. 13 million visitors poured in during the first fiscal year, 11 million in the first 12 months alone. No theme park in history had reached 10 million guests so quickly. The numbers seemed to confirm every optimistic forecast from the planners and financiers who had staked their reputations on the project. But behind the record crowds, cracks were already appearing. By 2004, attendance had slipped to 12.1 million, and in 2005 it dropped again to 11 million. The early novelty faded. Tokyo Disneyland responded with aggressive pricing and a major expansion. Japan's economy, still struggling through the aftershocks of the lost decade, left families with less to spend on entertainment. The park's Hollywood identity, so fresh at launch, began to feel distant in a market where local media and domestic brands held deep roots. The financial strain became public when the park's operating company required a $300 million recapitalization in late 2004. Goldman Sachs Asset Management and Mitsubishi UFJ Capital stepped in, taking a major equity stake, and by 2005, effective control. Cost-cutting, new management, and a sharper focus on licensing followed. For nearly a decade, Universal Studios Japan operated under this private equity lifeline, with attendance hovering below its opening peak and revenue growth trailing expectations. The true turnaround did not arrive until 2014, when Universal committed $442 million to build the wizarding world of Harry Potter. The result was immediate. Attendance rose from 12.1 million in 2014 to 13.2 million by 2016, and net park revenue climbed by $20 million each year. The Harry Potter expansion, more than a decade after opening, finally gave the park an identity that resonated with Japanese audiences. Only then did Universal Studios Japan begin to resemble the enduring success that opening year headlines once promised. The lesson in the numbers is unmistakable. Even the fastest start can mask a long, expensive road to real stability. Universal Studios Beijing opened its gates in September 2021 after 5 years of construction and an investment of $5.4 billion. The scale was unprecedented for Universal, with 7 themed lands, a showcase of intellectual property from Harry Potter to Kung Fu Panda, and a sprawling site on the eastern edge of the city. The ambition was to draw 10 to 12 million visitors a year, matching the best projections from Universal's planners and their Beijing municipal partners. By 2024, attendance had climbed to 9.7 million guests, just shy of the original target, and enough to place Beijing among the world's most visited theme parks. But the numbers on the balance sheet told a different story. Despite the crowds, Universal Studios Beijing posted an operating loss of $213 million in 2024 alone, pushing cumulative losses since opening to more than $426 million. The gap between turnout and profit was not a mystery to those inside the company. Ticket prices were capped by government regulation, limiting Universal's ability to lift revenue even as costs rose. Food and beverage margins were squeezed by municipal price controls, while merchandise sales lagged behind internal forecasts. The park's intellectual property mix also struggled to convert visitors into high-spending fans. While Minions and Kung Fu Panda found an audience among families, Harry Potter merchandise conversion rates were nearly a third lower than in Orlando or Osaka. Transformers, a brand with global reach, drew shorter dwell times and less repeat visitation than anticipated. Surveys and internal reports pointed to a deeper issue. Universal's flagship franchises, though globally known, did not carry the same cultural weight in China as in the West. Per visitor spending averaged just $87 in 2024, about 15% below the company's internal benchmark. Regulatory limits on ticket and food pricing combined with a less resonant intellectual property slate left Universal Studios Beijing with little room to maneuver. Even as attendance neared projections, the park could not close the revenue gap. The Beijing experience stands as a contemporary warning. Crowds alone do not guarantee viability, and cultural fit, not just budget or scale, remains the decisive factor in the early years of any international park. Universal's global parks reveal a cycle that repeats with striking regularity. Each new park opens amid fanfare, drawing crowds and headlines that hint at a bright future. Yet, beneath the surface, the initial surge gives way to a quieter reality. Attendance softens, and the challenge of adapting to local preferences becomes clear. For those parks that endure, a third stage follows: reinvestment, often years later, when a carefully chosen intellectual property or local innovation finally unlocks sustained success. This three-stage pattern, launch, struggle, reinvestment, can be traced across continents. In Japan, Universal's debut brought record numbers, but attendance soon dropped. A decade passed before the wizarding world of Harry Potter reignited interest, lifting annual visits by over 1 million. Beijing's grand opening echoed this arc: impressive construction and a lineup of global brands. But financial stability proved elusive as spending per guest lagged and cumulative losses mounted. Singapore, though smaller and supported by casino revenue, was not immune. Its 2010 launch benefited from the financial buffer of an integrated resort, softening the impact of an early attendance dip, yet profitability still depended on phased expansions, Transformers, Madagascar, Super Nintendo World, confirming that the original offering alone could not sustain momentum. The cycle is not a quirk of any single market or management team. Instead, it reflects a structural challenge: how Universal's brand and intellectual property connect, or fail to connect, with local audiences. Singapore's early struggle, often cited as an exception, actually reinforces the rule. The need for continual adaptation remains, regardless of financial safety nets. This recurring cycle now shapes expectations for every new Universal park. Success is measured not just by opening day crowds or construction budgets, but by how well the initial product fits its cultural and economic context. Japan's Harry Potter expansion stands as proof that the right intellectual property at the right moment can transform fortunes. In contrast, Beijing's $426 million in early losses shows the cost of missing that mark. Bedford, with its home advantage and bold projections, faces the same test. Can it escape the cycle that has defined Universal's international story? The Bedford site, at 476 acres, is the largest single parcel Universal has ever set aside for a theme park outside the United States. Planning documents project an economic impact of £50 billion for the United Kingdom by 2055, a figure that includes direct and indirect effects from tourism, hospitality, and supply chain activity. Employment forecasts are equally ambitious, with estimates of 28,000 jobs created over the next 3 decades. Attendance targets have been set at 8.5 million visitors per year, a number that would place Bedford among the top 5 theme parks in Europe from day one. But these headline figures come with conditions. The local hospitality ecosystem is almost non-existent. Only 4 restaurants currently operate within 5 kilometers of the site. The master plan calls for more than 90 food and beverage outlets to be built within the resort and its immediate surroundings. This gap is not trivial. Japan's early struggles and Beijing's ongoing revenue shortfall both trace back in part to a mismatch between initial guest volume and the supporting infrastructure needed to convert crowds into sustained revenue. Transport is another unresolved variable. A £1 billion government commitment will fund road widening and the upgrade of Wixham's railway station, which is scheduled for completion after construction begins. Until then, Bedford's accessibility for day trippers and tourists will depend on interim solutions, with no guarantee that the full rail and road network will be ready at opening. Cultural alignment is the park's strongest card. Harry Potter, filmed just 30 miles from the site, is embedded in British popular memory in a way no other Universal intellectual property has been in previous international launches. Yet, as of the most recent filings, Universal has not confirmed the full attraction slate for Bedford. Without a definitive list, the risk remains that the opening product will fall short of the kind of intellectual property resonance that delivered a 1 million guest uplift in Japan after the Wizarding World expansion. Every critical lever, site size, economic promise, infrastructure, and cultural fit sits in plain view, but none is guaranteed to deliver on its own. Bedford's future will be decided not by optimism, but by how these variables are made real in the years before opening. Right now, Universal faces a test grounded in hard numbers, not just optimism. In Japan, Harry Potter's arrival drove double-digit attendance jumps, proof that cultural fit outpaces ambition alone. Bedford's plans look stronger on paper, but history reminds us the true variable is resonance, not scale. Share your thoughts below.